Hey, what's going on, everybody? David Noe with Speakeasy HR, presented by Payroll Partners. Happy New Year. It is 2026, and I am ready to go and have a great year on Speakeasy HR with so many awesome guests already lined up for the next 11 to 12 months. And so I cannot wait to get kicked off with one of the guests that I have been really excited to hear from, especially since it's National Mentoring Month. And we have a few mutual friends that have connected in the past and how we kind of connected to be on the show today. So I am thrilled to welcome Lisa Fain to Speakeasy HR. Welcome, Lisa. How are you?
Hey, David, I'm great. How are you? Great to be here.
Yeah. How was your holidays? Are you getting out of that and back to it and everything? And
They were really restful. I took a full disconnect for a couple weeks, and it was good for the soul.
yeah,
Good to be
absolutely.
refreshed and ready to go for 2026.
Yeah. Yeah. It was nice to be off. I felt like the 2 weeks my kids were off, it felt way longer, but that's okay. We all stayed
It
fairly
always does.
healthy and my wife was a little sick, but I felt like everybody was sick to some level. And so, it's kind of like now everyone's trying to get back into their routine or start a new whatever, New Year's
Yeah,
resolution. I don't know. But here we are. And I cannot wait to get into this topic that you are bringing to the show. So, for those of you who are new to Speakeasy HR, welcome. Thanks for spending part of your Monday with us. I have a brand new blog out there at speakeasyhr.com. This is all about the human reset. And I was in a webinar recently and it really struck a few things in my mind. And so I wrote a little bit about that. So check out Speakeasy HR with all the blog work, all the past episodes, and where to find it. And would love to hear from you if you have any ideas about upcoming topics to talk about. So, Lisa, for those of you who do not know much about you, tell us a bit about your background and kind of what you've been working on.
yeah. I have a very circuitous journey to what I'm doing now. I started my career as an attorney doing management side employment law at a large law firm in Chicago,
Okay.
and then moved in-house to a company that was getting poised for major growth at the time. They were getting poised for an IPO. And I continue to be passionate actually about HR and HR law as a vehicle to create better work environments. And so I had the opportunity to help this company really step into the next level. And through a series of events that we don't have time to talk about at the moment, moved into the diversity and inclusion field, ended up kind of conceiving of and then launching the DEI function at my organization and moving out of law and into that and got a certification in executive coaching as I was doing that. So became a coach and through a series of events, and I'll just give you the very high level, David, because I know we got a lot of great stuff to talk about today. Our women's group had wanted a mentoring initiative, and I had
Okay.
really grown passionate in the power, the transformative power of individual relationships in the workplace to create inclusion, right? Like you have much more accountability and desire to bridge differences when you have a relationship with somebody. So this was going on in the back of my mind. And I called up Lois Zachary, who was my mother and was the founder of Center for Mentoring Excellence. And I said, our women's group wants a mentoring initiative. What do I do? And she said, why don't you bring me in and I'll help you think through how to build capability and what have you. And through a series of after some hesitation, like I can't really hire my mommy, what am I going to tell my boss? Let's bring in my mom. We were able to work it out, and she's at the front of the room talking to our mentors and our mentees about the transformative power of mentoring. And I really had, I think, kind of a lowercase e epiphany that the work of mentorship in the workplace and my own passion for bridging differences and creating a more inclusive workplace had a real synergy. So I went part-time at my organization and part-time at Center for Mentoring Excellence, had a chance to work with my mom for several years, write a few books together, and ended up coming here to Center for Mentoring Excellence and started to lead the organization in 2018 after she retired. So we work with companies all around the world and help them create more inclusive cultures through mentoring. That's training, facilitation, keynote speaking, consultation, and really with the belief that you have to have a mentoring culture, a learning culture in order to make the most of these amazing benefits that mentoring can have in the workplace.
Yeah. No, that's amazing, and it's so exciting and just so important in an organization. Doesn't matter what size business. And so
Yeah.
I cannot wait to learn from you and just everybody watching and listening as well. So, um, president of International Mentoring Association as well, right? And the
Yeah.
advisory board as well with the military mentors. So tell us a little bit about those organizations
Yeah.
and what you're doing with that.
So International Mentoring Association is a association that's been around since 1987, and it really is the go-to resource and community for people in the mentoring profession. That's mentoring resources, organizations and companies that have mentoring initiatives, mentoring program coordinators, consultants, mentoring software platforms, a place to share best practices, to learn about the latest research, to just really be together in a way that we embody the learning that mentoring is designed to do. Have the honor of being president. I'm finishing my second year going into
Okay.
May, and at our conference in May of this year, I'll be handing the reins to our president-elect, Dr. Ben Kutsuruba from Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario.
Okay.
Great organization. And if you're looking, for those who are watching, if you're looking for mentoring resources, check out IMA's website. It's mentoringassociation.org. And then I am on the advisory board of Military Mentors, among other things. And that's an organization that I was really, it was approached at exactly the right time in my career. I was looking for an organization, a not for profit, to be involved in that was committed to diversity, that had its arms in the military, because I do think that there's a lot to learn from leadership in the military, and it was an area that I didn't have as much familiarity with, but really believe that there's some great things to be happening. And one day I picked up the phone, and now treasured friend and colleague, Dr. Chevy Cook, who's one of the founders of Military Mentors, called to see if I would be on the board. And I said yes right away. And it's a wonderful organization that serves members of the military and their spouses and family members, and really helps them spark transformation and have great conversations through mentoring and leadership development.
Wow. You are busy. That's great. Well,
Yeah.
there's a fun game I started when this podcast was created, and it's more of just a fun envelope icebreaker
Okay.
game. It's world famous in my mind, but for others who have never watched, maybe one day it will be even more popular. So this is 15 questions that are in one question in each envelope. So I'll give you a few seconds as we transition to think of a number between 1 and 15, and we're going to see what you pick here. Hold on one second. All right. 1 through 15. What do you got?
Lucky number 8.
Lucky number 8. Okay, here we go. Number 8 it is. And what's your I wasn't expecting to love this moment in your career?
Oh, in my career. Oh, I wasn't expecting to love this moment in my career. That's such a great question. I honestly, I think I actually have had a few. The one that strikes me the most is, um, I'm really interested in research.
Yeah.
I'm really interested in what research says. I'm not a researcher. Like, I'm really interested in
Okay.
other people, in reading other people's research. And that is mostly true.
Yeah.
Um, except when I get a spark occasionally, and it usually happens when I'm like on a run, or I don't run anymore, but or a walk or a hike or something, and I'll get an idea, and it's like an I wonder if moment, and then I will go neck deep in whatever research, like layperson's research, right? We're not talking about academic research that I
Yeah.
can do about a topic. And it's moments like that I'm like, oh my gosh, maybe I do love it. Maybe I
Yeah.
really do love the discovery of this kind of needle in a haystack, or seeing what's said about that.
Absolutely.
So I've had that a couple times
Okay.
in a couple different ideas, and a lot of times when I'm writing something, it'll come to me as well, and then I'll just go neck deep. So
Yeah.
I like a couple research moments is my answer
Yeah.
to the story, and I'm sure I'll think of something else at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'll let
Yeah.
you know the next.
No, that's great. I appreciate you playing along. So, we're going to dive into your topic after just a couple of messages from our presenting sponsor, Payroll Partners. So, grab a drink and I will see you in about a minute.
Finding a new employee takes time and money. For one position on a single job board, you could easily spend a minimum of $5 to $10 a day advertising a job post. It's worth noting that the average time it takes to hire a new employee is 36 days. However, it can take longer than that. You could find yourself paying hundreds of dollars a month for a single job board. And if you're using multiple job boards for multiple positions, this could add up to thousands of dollars a month. There is a much simpler and more affordable way of finding the right candidate. At Payroll Partners, we offer an applicant tracking system to help manage your hiring process. Our ATS is customizable, allowing you to decide which days you want to run the job and when to close it so you don't break the bank. And this feature lets you e-blast your network, posting jobs on multiple boards at once, all managed in one location. Payroll Partners, elevating your payroll and HR experience.
So if you are fed up with your payroll technology, it's just not working for you, looking for something new, look us up, payrollpartners.net. Contact me on LinkedIn. Would love to just hear about your situation. And if we can help you, we would love to connect with you and try to make your situation better. Because let's face it, you don't want to mess with someone's payroll, paycheck. They expect to get paid on time and right. So, all right. So, just like every other guest that I bring on Speakeasy HR, Lisa, we have connected over the last few months to really dive into what you are passionate about and what you want to bring to the show and share your knowledge and share your wealth. And we are um, live on LinkedIn and YouTube. So, if you are watching live, chime in, ask questions along the way. I have a lot of questions as we have gotten ready for this conversation. So to start out, Lisa, what you emphasize mentoring as a core driver of growth. So how does mentoring help co-create career development between an organization and an employee?
Yeah. So, several different ways. First of all, you want mentoring. Mentoring isn't a vehicle in excuse me, isn't an end in itself. Mentoring is a vehicle to other things, right? So organizations that have identified who their future leaders are, right? What their leadership competencies are, what kind of culture they want to create, or have identified where many of their pain points are from a people perspective, whether it's retention, engagement, attraction, recruitment, any of those things, um, really can use mentoring as a tool for that. But ultimately, mentoring is about learning. I like to say a term that my mother, Lois Zachary, coined, which is that learning is the purpose, the process, and the product of mentoring. I'll say it one more time so folks can capture it, right? Learning is the purpose, the process, and the product of mentoring. So, in addition to achieving all of those things organizationally, all those organizational ends, also mentoring is a vehicle for individual and personal learning. So, when it is integrated with an overall talent strategy, an overall learning strategy, and when space is made for it in the organization and when an individual takes agency over their learning, mentoring is this really beautiful place where you can explore all of these things, all of the structure, and really use it as a way to lead to growth. One of the things that I think is so beautiful about mentoring is, you know, I often refer to something called the pie model, which is, have you heard of this, David, the pie model of
No,
success? Okay,
no.
so imagine I'm going to use you as my guinea pig here to give me
Okay,
what your rough answer is. Imagine that there are three elements to career success: performance, how well you do your job, that's the P,
okay.
right? Image is how well you're viewed in your industry and organization, and exposure is exposure to people, resources, and opportunities. And imagine that P plus I plus E equals 100%. So you'll have 100% career success if you got performance, image, and exposure. What percentage of career success do you think that performance is? If you were to guess.
It's got to be it's got to be high. It's got to be 75. Am I way
Yeah.
wrong?
Well, I hope you have like armrests on your chair and you can hold on to them when I tell you this, that it's actually 10%
Yep.
of career success. So it's not that it's not important. It's actually a really critical 10% because you don't get the other 90% unless you do a good job. But I know, like, I can remember when I was young or early in my career anyway, and I would ask people, like, what do I need to do to experience success? And they would say things like, just be so good that people can't ignore you. So I would just put my nose down, work my rear off, and hope that people would come a knocking. And the truth is that that that's not the way to career success. In fact, exposure to people, resources, and opportunities is 60%. So for those who are not high on math, that means image is 30%, right? And the
Mm.
beauty of mentoring is that it allows you to focus on the I and the E, the other 90%. You've got your manager or your supervisor who can help with performance. And it's not that you can't have conversations about how to do the job in mentoring relationships. It's just that it's a missed opportunity if you only stop there and you don't explore who do you need to know? What do you need to know about? Where do you need to be spending your time? And that's really the beauty of mentoring and how it leads to individual career growth.
I love how you broke that down. I started taking notes, so I'm gonna have to watch this again. So, what's the biggest mistake organizations make when they launch mentoring programs, and how can they fix it?
Yeah, I know you asked me for the biggest. I'm going to give you the biggest two. Hope that's okay.
Perfect.
Okay. So the first is what I call pair and pray, which is just pairing people and praying that it succeeds without thinking about what sort of ongoing support do we need to have? Do we need to have? Do we have leadership buy-in? Do we have managers um, um, making time, allowing time in the schedules, right? Or if you've got a mentoring conversation on your calendar and it's always being scheduled over for a team meeting, that's not really a commitment, supportive mentoring, is it? So you have to do more than just pair and pray. You have to have the culture to support it, and you have to have ongoing support for the mentoring pairs, an avenue for feedback, right? A way to provide resources for learning, building mentor and mentee capacity and capability through training, those kind of things. So that's mistake number one, is just pair and pray. And mistake number two is having a mentoring initiative for the sake of a mentoring initiative, right? As I mentioned at the beginning, mentoring is a vehicle to other things. It's not an end in itself. So as an organization, why are you committing to mentoring? And how does it fit into your learning and development strategy? How does it fit into your business priorities? How are your leaders talking and thinking about and prioritizing it? And you can see by those two examples, David, that it's really about creating a foundation where learning can grow, and that supports and encourages and keeps people accountable to ongoing learning.
Love it. So we are live with Lisa Fain, CEO of Center for Mentoring Excellence. We are live on LinkedIn and YouTube. So for those of you watching live, thanks for spending part of your day with us and diving into this conversation about mentorship. And it's National Mentorship Month. So I feel like as everyone is starting their year and New Year's resolutions and everything, it's also about looking at mentoring and how that applies to your situation and how it can apply to the organization that you work with. So, Lisa, how can employees take ownership of their career growth while also inviting organizational support when it comes to mentorship?
Yeah, I had seen that question that you sent me ahead of time, and in the last 10 minutes, I've been noodling on a different answer, because right before we went live, you told me something about yourself, David, that I think really exemplifies this. So I'm gonna use you as my exemplar here,
Okay.
which is it's a perfect example of individual agency and organizational support. And in your case, it's not about mentorship, it's about launching a podcast or doing something else that's about learning. But
Right.
what you told me is you wanted to start a podcast. I think I got it right. You can correct me if I got it wrong. You wanted to start a podcast and you had a lot of interest in it. And you approached your organization and you said, will you support me?
Yep.
And they said yes. And as we know, they're the sponsor of the podcast, but it's also about creating time in your day for it, recognizing that this is a way for you to learn and to grow in and of yourself, and to learn to be mentored, if you will, by some of these conversations, these mentoring moments as well. So it's a perfect example of you taking individual agency, your organization providing the container, the framework for support, and allowing, and the other thing that you told me is that many of these conversations help the way that you do the other part of your job, and it benefits back to the organization. So it's a beautiful example. I don't know if you intended it to be as we were having this very last minute conversation, but it's a perfect example of what I like to talk about, of this dual responsibility of an organization setting the framework and an individual taking agency. Nobody said to you, you should start a podcast. You had a feeling that this is a way that you could grow and get engaged, and, have something that was rewarding for you and that you learned from. And so you took the initiative to do that. So well done, you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I haven't pulled this out yet. So this is my mini air horn.
Okay.
It's a lot of fun, and I forget about it because it was stuck underneath a little piece of equipment. So yes, that was very accurate in what you just explained. So thank you.
Awesome.
No, that's great. And so again, the ownership of every individual and how they can apply a situation like mine, as Lisa had just explained, whether you are in HR, whether you are in another kind of industry, how can you take ownership, and how can your business support that career growth beyond a certification or internal promotion? I mean, there's a lot of things that would fall into that from an
Yeah.
organization support role. So
Yeah.
it's
Let
all
me add
very
on to it, though, just because I think I can be a little bit more explicit in the mentoring context that I think is really important, which is the first
right,
step in terms of individual agency is self-reflection.
right,
You had to have that inkling, that whisper, that knowing that this is something that you wanted, and an understanding of why. And I'm assuming that your employer needed some justification that this was something that was important. It wasn't just you know,
right.
hey, do this. But you recognize that there was a link to your career, that it was something that would be fulfilling, and that requires some self-reflection. So the first step in terms of individual agency really is taking the time to realize, what is it that's missing? What is it that, or what not, it might not even be missing. It might be there, but need amplification, right? So where is it that I need to be learning, and where do I want to be learning, and how can I seek that out? And then what an organization can do in the context of mentoring, so a little bit away from this example here, is provide the training, provide the resources, talk about mentoring and learning as a priority in the organization. I often say that a mentoring culture can't grow in the absence of a learning culture. So how is an organ, for those of you who have organizational responsibility who are listening, how is your organization fostering a learning culture? How is it talking about learning being something that's important, and that it values and that it makes time for? Is it celebrating learning moments? Is it recognizing achievements? Is it talking about those who are mentoring formally or informally? You can set a formal mentoring program and set the stage and the foundation for informal mentoring conversations too. So those are two ways that both you can take the individual agency and organizational growth, specifically in the context of mentoring.
Yep. So many companies talk about career pathways. How do you make those real and not just theoretical?
Yeah. Um, I'm gonna sound like what's the word that I'm looking for? Sound like I'm on repeat here, because it really does require the self-reflection of to understand, like, where do I want to go? But it's also not just having singular ladders,
Yeah.
right? And recognizing the benefit of, one organization we work with calls them lattices, which I think is a great term. You think about a lattice in a garden that you can go lots of different directions, and maybe even sometimes this way leads you to a new route as well. So where are strengths that can be amplified? Where are shortcomings that can be developed? Where are natural partnerships and learning opportunities that can create avenues for growth? The other mistake is thinking that there always is, that the way things are the way things always will be for everybody in the organization. One of the things that I get so excited about when I think I have Gen Z children is that the careers that they will have probably don't exist yet, and they're in their early 20s. So, the careers that they'll be starting in the next, 4 or 5 years, who knows what they are. And we need to be thinking that expansively with our existing workforce as well. Just
Mhm.
because there's a certain role, are there other things that might be developed and might be in individuals' interests and the interests of the organization. So it's both an openness and a willingness of the learner, the mentee, to explore what exists and think about future possibility, and the willingness of an organization to be open to different kinds of movement and exploration, to really invest in the people in the organization.
Yeah. So peer mentoring is growing in popularity. I've heard a few different phrases, but what makes it different from the traditional mentoring, and why is it powerful for co-creating that kind of growth?
Yeah. Well, let me answer that question, but let me first kind of, excuse me, define what peer mentoring is so folks understand what we're talking about. So, most of the time, when people are just talking about mentoring without any kind of definition, they're thinking about this traditional hierarchical one on one mentor, right? Where the mentor is somebody more senior, the mentee is somebody more junior. We've heard a lot. Some people call it reverse mentoring. We call it complementary mentoring, where you flip that on your head, which is also one-on-one mentoring, also in a hierarchical relationship. Now, so I know some are listening and not watching, but I'm holding my hands vertically. Moving it horizontally is what we're talking about peer mentoring, and that can be one-on-one or it can be in groups, and it's where there's no hierarchical difference among the um, uh, mentor and the mentee. And in fact, in many cases in peer mentoring relationships, it is designed where both parties to the relationship are both mentor and mentee. So they really are learning from one another. It's different than like a great lunch conversation, right? It's different than, a post work happy hour at the local speakeasy. See what I did there,
I like
right?
that.
Yeah, but instead it's an intentional learning conversation. Some people call these masterminds, that kind of thing. And sometimes they're topical, and they're always developmental, and they still have structure. The mistake that people make is they just keep it loosey goosey, and that it's not really focused on the learning. But it really is so helpful because you can share a lot of times more vulnerably, you can learn from one another, you can try things out, and you have folks who are invested in your own learning and in whose learning you're invested in. And I'm a part of a mastermind myself with now 3 other women who are also small business owners in the learning space, and we keep each other accountable. We share our goals. We give each other sometimes unsolicited, most often solicited feedback, and support one another. But it really engages me and keeps me accountable to what it is that I want to achieve. And I'm learning from them
Yeah.
all the time and gaining perspective.
Yeah. So, in some of the statistics and data that I have found, Lisa, one of them was from Gardner, and they had found that 46% of employees are satisfied with their career development. So that brings me to get some reaction to you on that stat, and really how HR professionals can help lead development programs in this period of the workforce that we have. So, as you hear that stat, under 50% are satisfied with their career development. What's one practical step that HR professionals can take this year to really deepen the career growth partnerships?
Yeah. I think the days of the peanut butter approach are over, right? The peanut butter approach being like, spreading something evenly that we think is going to be a one size fits all solution. And so if you're asking me about one practical step that can be taken, I think the first step is to ask and to learn what are the needs of the folks. Well, I would say 2 things. You want to find out the needs and the ways that the people are learning, and the what the appetite for learning and convening are, and really being intentional about what are the learning and development opportunities and needs of the business, and then determining what it matches in those opportunities, right? Too often it happens in isolation. And it's like, here's what we're offering. I do think, I mean, one of the things I mentioned Gen Z before, I'm solidly an Xer, and but I think that there's a lot of difference, like really a difference that makes a difference in the way that millennials and Gen Z, and who knows about Gen Alpha that's coming up behind them, are committed to and desirous of learning in their careers. I think it's actually a great thing. I really do. I think the appetite to learn and to develop, um, and to grow and to have possibility available, is super exciting. And it is the challenge of the moment for learning and development professionals, especially senior learning and development professionals who are my generation or above. So to understand, to embrace technology, AI, learning needs and styles, and to really give a voice to and honoring of that desire, is the task, I think, of the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And going back to when we had started talking before we came on and how we got connected, so the few people that we do know, one is a recent guest, Pete Schramm, who was on episode 50, and he talks all about having a boardroom of advisors with mentorship.
Yeah.
And then Bev, who was actually the one that connected us. So there's a lot of people in our situations right now that are relying on mentorship to really develop their services to companies like you. And so you've seen it, you've seen what has worked and what's not worked, and it's helping people like myself that really don't have that. And I even texted Pete and I was waiting for a copy of his book, and I'm like, all right, I think I need a board of advisors because I don't have them. And I think it's so important to have that, and it doesn't matter where you are in your career. um,
Yeah.
so really leaning in on mentorship and how it applies to your situation in 2026, I think is going to be so valuable to everybody. So with all of that said, it leads me to this question for you. So what's one example of a mentoring culture doing career growth right? And what can organizations learn from it?
Yeah. Um, I I'm going to kind of, I don't have client permission to give you the name, so we'll refer to it as a global manufacturing organization that's based in the U.S. Right, that recognized um, that it had a pipeline issue for diverse representation at the leadership level. Right, they were hiring the junior levels really diverse, um, new employees, but there as people were elevating in the organization, the representation really became less and less diverse, and they wanted to figure out why. And they realized I think without knowing the pie model, they realized how important the E was, the exposure to people, resources, and opportunities. And so
Yeah.
intentionally developed a mentoring initiative, allowing access and exposure for younger folks or I should say more junior folks in the organization from diverse backgrounds, from underrepresented backgrounds. And this was great for a number of different reasons. Number one, it had the intentionality of providing a safe place. They also provided training and support and leadership talking points and all of the things around mentoring and learning, but it also gave exposure to folks who were more senior in the organization of folks who are more junior, in a way that they really was this reciprocity. That's such a beautiful thing about mentoring, where mentors learn as much as mentees. So they could start to see in the organization where there were things that could be tweaked to really create a better workplace, uh, all around. And they had all sorts of other learning and development resources. And they had leaders that were able to speak to this across um, countries, locations, departments, that kind of thing. And if there, I get really nerdy about the ripple effect of mentoring because um, It's really cool. I don't know another kind of modality
Yeah.
that has that same kind of ripple effect, and you start to see that in the organization, where folks who would participate in the mentoring initiative would start to take some of the what they had learned about how to create great mentoring conversations and use it in their performance management conversations or
Mhm.
their team meetings, or their conversations with their colleagues as well. And it starts to create this culture change, because there's an openness and a support and a value, to seeing what other people are doing as well. So just that's just one example
Yeah.
as well.
Very good. So when employees express frustration with their stalled growth, how do you really help them reframe their path and engage organizational support?
Yeah. So usually it's a failure to reflect on really what it is,
Yeah.
uh, they need, right? And like, where's the question often looks like, I'm not getting what I need from the organization. They don't have a mentoring program. There's no leadership training. There's no high potential identification here. There's no pathway for me. So this is where the individual agency really comes in. What else do you need internally or externally in order to do the self-reflection? Here's where I think AI can be an incredibly valuable thought partner on self-reflection for individuals. Like, use AI to come up with questions, not to come up with answers, but to come up with questions that help you think about what you need, and then once you feed that back in, help you ask for it from your manager or your employer,
Yeah.
right? And use it to practice those conversations or to try out new things. Don't look to it for answers. It's not going to be able to tell you what you deeply need, want, where your strengths are. But it will be able to prompt you for those questions. So I would say, think about what you are expecting, and realize that it's an expectation, right? Not necessarily an entitlement.
Yeah.
And then identify where your need is in that and ask for something that meets that need. And if your employer's not going to get it, you can seek it elsewhere for free, right? There's associations.
Oh,
I mean, we know from our own connection, David, that LinkedIn is a really powerful tool, for creating, for learning about what other people are doing and creating those connections and those conversations.
yep.
And I think practicing that early in your career
Yeah.
is really, really, really useful.
Yeah. I am getting involved in local Disrupt HR events coming up. One that
Yeah.
is in Cincinnati, Ohio, February 19th. It will be our ninth year of having a Disrupt HR in Cincinnati, where it was founded. So I'm fortunate to be on the planning team with some amazing people that have been doing it since the beginning. And so I cannot wait to be there. I am going to be presenting, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So this kind of organization is global. So if you are not familiar with Disrupt HR, you can probably find a local chapter to kind of get involved in more HR community, HR events. So just wanted to bring that up because some of your mentor focus may be people in HR. If you are in HR, somebody that you look to as potentially someone that is a little bit farther along in their career. They might be with an organization beyond yours, and it could really help you connect, network, meet new people, find people that are going to impact your career uh, in in the future. And so, again, there's plenty of HR local community resources if you are in that kind of um, world. So happy to help connect anybody that's looking for resources that are not in Cincinnati, but just wanted to bring that up. So one final question, Lisa, and I think this is more about just what you see moving forward. And so looking ahead, how will mentoring and shared development redefine the employee experience?
Yeah. I think creating community in the workplace, I mean, look, our workplaces are shifting so rapidly. You look back, it's January 2026 as we're recording this. You look back 5 years, and it was a different workplace. And we are just really catching up. And though we've had now hybrid work for quite a bit of time, we're still catching up from the HR side as to what how we accommodate that, and how we accommodate and think in addition to the generational shifts in the economy, um, the rise of AI, all these things. So mentoring is really going to play a huge role into how do we make sense of this? How do we determine what we need? How do we have individual engagement in a way that meets the differing needs, and increases? We haven't yet talked about the term cultural competency, which is so important when we think about mentoring and we think about learning and we think about ways to bridge differences between mentor and mentee, between executives and frontline staff, across identities, all of those things. But building mentoring will really help build cultural competency. It'll also help build leadership competency. And it will make a huge difference as we move and evolve in the workforce, in the workplace.
Absolutely. I I always ask people this question, so this is not necessarily in the topic that we're talking about, but from your work in your career, and advice you've been given, what's maybe some of the biggest piece of advice that you have received in your career?
Great question. It's the best piece of advice and the most impactful piece of advice that I received in my career wasn't given to me in the career context at all. It was given to me the night of my rehearsal dinner before my wedding in 1999. Well, it's going on 27 years. Um, and in the midst of the rehearsal dinner, my sister-in-law stood up and clinked a glass, said, my toe, and it wasn't coffee. If I'm holding on my coffee. And it wasn't bourbon either. Just to be clear, nor is this. And she said, the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. And it turns out that's really good advice in marriage, and it's really great career advice.
Hmm.
There's a lot of small stuff that it's easy to sweat the small stuff, right? It's easy to be led down a different path. It's easy to, in my own case, decide that you want to be partner in a law firm when you don't really want to be partner in a law firm because you think you're supposed to be partner in a law firm, right? But when you take the time and you think about what's the main thing, why am I working? I mean, besides from the paycheck,
Yep.
what kind of value do I want from my work? What do I want to be doing? What lights me up? And then keeping that central and having whatever your purposes are, I don't necessarily think there's one, at heart, and always keeping that central will really lead to a more satisfying career. I think it will lead to better workplaces because we'll all be more engaged. And it'll lead to better conversations and more community as we really become more self reflective and understand ourselves in a way that we can give to others in a better way.
Oh yeah. No, that's great. And I'm thanks for sharing that. That was
Yeah.
awesome. Uh, so the one other QR code that I was going to pull up is Center for Mentoring Excellence, and what you can find out at this QR code if you scan it. So, Lisa, tell us a little bit more about this.
Yeah. So this is the QR code to our link tree. It'll give you some information to our website, to my speaking site. I do a lot of keynote speaking. We have a lot of free resources as well, both on our YouTube channel and through our newsletter. You can sign up for that for free, no obligation to do anything, and you can always unsubscribe if it doesn't work for you. But if you're looking for ways to learn more about mentoring and to support a mentoring culture, we'll have a lot of great stuff for you there. So check it out.
Very good. Very good. Well, this has been great, Lisa. I really appreciate your time. I know you are very busy and you have a lot going on, and I'm glad that we were able to connect, and we've had this on the schedule for quite some time. So, any other final thoughts or anything that you wanted to share as we end up here and get finished up?
No, I'm delighted to have this conversation with you, David. I've actually learned a lot just from our pre-conversation and hearing your own story. I'm excited to hear feedback from any of your listeners or any questions if they want to be in touch.
Yeah.
And I wanted to just wish you and everyone watching a happy mentoring month.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're not connected to Lisa on LinkedIn, please do. She is a great resource. And hopefully, at some point in the future, if you are looking to support and get more involved in your organization from a mentorship standpoint, or just you know, personally, professionally, trying to find the right option out there, Lisa is definitely one to consider. So, Lisa, thanks for your time today. It was great to talk to you, and I wish you all the best. And hopefully, we'll talk real soon. And Happy New Year, and have a great rest of your day.
I look forward to it. Thanks, David.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We have a brand new episode next Monday with many more to come. So be on the lookout for upcoming episodes and guests. So we will leave you to it. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. See you later.